Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us.
It's great to be back.
So today we're gonna do things a little bit differently.
Oh!
Yeah, we're only looking at a single source.
Okay.
One single primary source. And it's a surprisingly intact issue of the New York Times.
Wow.
From October 28th, 1854.
1854.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know what you might be thinking, old news, who cares, right?
Yeah.
But trust me on this one, because there is some unexpected gold in these pages. We're talking about, your typical 1850 stuff, cotton prices, shipwrecks.
Right.
But there are also these amazing little glimpses into life back then.
Like time travel.
Yeah.
But without the whole paradox issue.
Exactly. And we get to hear directly from the people of the past.
Through their words.
Yeah, through their words and concerns.
Yeah.
Okay, so picture this. 1854,
All right.
pre-Civil War America. A nation just growing like crazy and tensions are brewing.
Yeah.
What's grabbing everyone's attention? What's the talk of the town?
Well, one of the biggest stories is about cotton, or more specifically, the price of cotton.
Okay.
It's going down.
So cotton prices drop.
Way down.
Why should we care?
They-
Was this like the 1850s version of a stock market crash?
It's more than just a, market fluctuation.
Okay.
Remember, cotton was king back then.
Right.
The entire U.S. economy, especially in the North, was deeply intertwined with Southern cotton production.
Oh.
This price drop wasn't just about money.
It wasn't.
It revealed this dangerous dependency
Mm.
and, the simmering tensions that would eventually erupt in the Civil War.
Whoa. So a simple economic headline actually foreshadows one of the most pivotal moments in U.S. history.
Exactly.
Now, that's what I call a deep dive.
And speaking of dramatic events,
Yeah.
the paper also recounts the harrowing shipwreck of the steamship New York.
Okay, I have to admit, shipwrecks always make my heart race a little. What happened?
This wasn't just any shipwreck. The New York went down carrying a massive $70,000 in specie.
Okay.
That's gold and silver coins for those of you keeping score at home,
Right.
along with a whopping 1,200 bales of cotton.
Okay, now that's a serious loss.
Yeah.
Imagine all the families waiting for news, the merchants counting their losses.
Yeah, it must have been devastating.
It must have been.
The article talks about ongoing salvage efforts,
Oh, really?
which, gives you a sense of the desperation to recover at least some of what was lost.
Right.
But this shipwreck is also a stark reminder of the sheer danger of sea travel back then.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, did this tragedy lead to any changes in safety regulations or shipbuilding practices?
That's a great question. And it really highlights how these historical events weren't just isolated incidents. They had ripple effects and often spurred real change.
Right.
But, it's not all doom and gloom in this newspaper.
No.
There are also these little nuggets of everyday life that are just so fascinating.
Yes. These little details are what really bring the past to life.
Yeah, like this one, a huge show of cattle that drew massive crowds, all eager to witness the finest animals in the country.
Oh, wow.
It seems like such a simple event,
Yeah,
but it speaks volumes about the time.
absolutely. It reminds us that agriculture was at the heart of American life, and people took immense pride in their livestock.
Yeah,
In a world without TV or the internet,
right.
imagine how big of a deal this cattle show must have been.
It's true.
It was a social event, a spectacle, a chance for people to connect and celebrate.
It's like the 1850s version of a state fair, but with maybe a bit less fried food.
Yeah, probably.
And then there's this other intriguing tidbit, hush whispers, of a major capital being invested in a railroad project near Washington.
Oh.
It's like a historical cliffhanger.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
The paper is frustratingly vague on the details, but it does give us a glimpse into the railroad boom that was transforming the country.
Yeah.
And the allure of these new investment opportunities.
And speaking of secrets and scandals, there's a legal case involving a man named John Lohman who got in trouble for criminal conversation.
Interesting.
Now, to our modern ears, that might sound like he just wasn't very chatty. But back then,
It meant something entirely different.
I bet it did.
In 1854, criminal conversation was a euphemism for adultery.
Whoa, talk about a blast from the past. I mean, it makes you realize how much social norms have changed.
Yeah.
Something that might have been a scandalous headline back then, it's probably just a Tuesday on social media now.
It is fascinating to see how our views on privacy and personal relationships have evolved over time.
Right.
But this case also reminds us that human nature, with its drama and complexities, hasn't really changed that much.
Okay, so we've got economic turmoil, a maritime tragedy, a cattle show, a mysterious railroad investment, and a juicy scandal.
Wow.
All in just a few pages of this newspaper.
We've only just scratched the surface. This single issue offers such a rich and layered perspective on life in 1854.
I'm already hooked. What else is hiding in the pages of this time capsule?
Well, coming up next, we'll dive into some of the advertisements and announcements.
Okay.
Which offer a fascinating glimpse into the everyday lives and concerns of the people who live during this era.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to our 1854 adventure. You ready to see what businesses and products were vying for the attention of 19th century consumers?
You bet. It's like peeking behind the curtain of everyday life.
Yeah.
What were people spending their hard-earned money on back then?
Well, let's start with something we can all relate to: clothes.
Okay.
There are plenty of ads for tailors and dressmakers, of course.
Right.
But there's also this one that caught my eye.
Okay.
A shop specializing in India rubber goods.
India rubber goods. That sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
What exactly were they selling?
Think raincoats, boots, maybe even early forms of waterproof clothing. Rubber was a relatively new material at the time.
Oh, okay.
So these ads really highlight how technological innovation was starting to influence even the most basic aspects of life.
It's like a fashion time capsule. You can almost imagine someone strolling down a muddy New York street in their brand new rubber boots.
Heck yeah.
And speaking of capturing images,
Oh, yeah.
the paper is also full of advertisements for daguerreotype studios.
Lots of those.
Okay, I'm going to need a little help with this one.
Okay.
Daguerreotype, that sounds like something out of a steampunk novel.
Not quite steampunk, but definitely cutting-edge technology for the time.
Okay.
Daguerreotypes were an early form of photography, using these silver-coated copper plates to create images.
Oh, so they were basically getting their portraits done.
Yeah.
Why is that so significant?
Well,
I mean, people take selfies all the time now.
it's more than just a selfie.
Oh.
In the 19th century, having your portrait taken was a big deal.
It was.
It was a way to preserve your likeness for posterity, a way to commemorate important life events.
Oh, I see.
These ads give us a glimpse into the social significance of portraiture back then,
Right.
and the desire to capture those fleeting moments in time.
That's a great point. It wasn't just about vanity. It was about creating a tangible record of yourself and your loved ones in a world without cameras and smartphones.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what will future generations look back on as our equivalent of a daguerreotype?
That's a fascinating question. Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
I noticed quite a few ads promoting life insurance policies.
Oh, interesting.
It seems that financial planning for the future was already on people's minds.
That makes sense. As society evolves, so do our concerns and priorities.
Right.
But I'm curious, what were they worried about?
Hmm.
Were there specific dangers or uncertainties driving this interest in life insurance?
It's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but it likely reflects a growing middle class with more assets to protect
Okay.
and a greater awareness of the need for financial security.
But alongside these signs of progress,
Yeah.
there are also stark reminders of the darker realities of the time.
Yes, sadly.
You're talking about slavery, aren't you?
I am juxtaposed
Yeah.
with those life insurance ads. You also find numerous notices for slave auctions.
Oh, wow.
It's a chilling reminder that while some were planning for a secure future, others were being denied even the most basic human rights.
It's a heartbreaking contrast that really underscores the complexities and contradictions of this era.
Yeah,
But I think it's important not to shy away from these difficult aspects of history.
I agree.
They force us to confront the injustices of the past
Right.
and to remember that progress isn't always linear.
Absolutely. And as we delve deeper into these commercial offerings, we see a fascinating mix of the familiar and the utterly bizarre.
Okay, you've got to give me an example.
Okay.
What kind of bizarre ads are we talking about?
Well, there's one that claims to offer a cure for baldness,
What?
promising to restore hair to its former glory.
A cure for baldness in 1854 sounds like a snake oil salesman to me.
Hey, you're probably right.
Yeah.
But it does highlight the timeless human desire for quick fixes
Right?
and the allure of products that promise to solve our woes.
I guess not. It's incredible how even something as seemingly mundane as an advertisement can offer such insights into human nature and the anxieties of a particular era.
They really are like little cultural artifacts reflecting the beliefs, desires, and maybe even the insecurities of the time.
So we've covered fashion technology, financial anxieties, and even a bit of snake oil.
We have.
What other treasures are hidden within the commercial landscape of this 1854 newspaper?
Well, hold on to your hats,
Yeah.
because next we're venturing into the realm of entertainment and leisure in 1854.
Oh.
Think theater music and even early forms of sporting events.
Well, I'm definitely ready for some 19th century fun.
Yeah.
Let's see how they entertain themselves before Netflix and video games. All right, so we've seen how people in 1854 dressed, what they worried about, and even what they dreamed of.
It's true.
But now it's time for the fun part.
Oh, yes.
Entertainment. What were they doing to unwind after a long day of, not having smartphones to distract them?
Well, theater was a huge draw back then.
Okay.
This issue of the New York Times has multiple ads for plays and performances happening all over the city.
Ooh. Any big hits or must-see show? Like, was Shakespeare all the rage back then?
One that stands out
Yeah.
is for Niblo's Garden,
Niblo's Garden.
which was a famous entertainment venue in the 19th century.
It conjures up images of, lush gardens, twinkling lights, maybe even a fountain.
I know it sounds pretty grand.
What kind of performances did they have?
From what I can gather, they offered a real mix:
Okay.
theatrical productions, musical acts, and even equestrian performances.
Wait, horses on stage?
Yeah,
Now that's something you don't see every day,
it's true.
even in the 21st century.
It's a reminder that entertainment back then was often a spectacle, a fusion of different art forms.
Yeah.
And speaking of music, the paper also mentions a performance by the Orpheus Society,
Okay.
a choral group known for their renditions of popular and patriotic songs.
So imagine a time before recorded music.
Yeah.
For Spotify or Apple Music, you
Right.
had to go out and experience live performance to hear your favorite tunes.
Exactly. And these concerts weren't just about entertainment.
Oh.
They were social gatherings, a way for people to connect and bond over shared musical experiences.
That's a good point.
It's a reminder of the power of music to bring people together, something that's still true today.
Now I'm curious about the sporting scene.
Hmm.
Were there any baseball games happening? Or was that still a few years off?
Well, organized sports weren't quite the phenomenon they are today.
Right.
But the paper does mention a cricket match taking place.
Cricket. That seems so British.
It is. But remember, this is a time when American culture was still being heavily influenced by Europe.
Good point.
And while cricket may not have taken root here the way it did in England, it's a reminder of the global connections and cultural exchange that were happening even back then.
Yeah.
And of course, baseball as we know it today was still in its early stages of development.
So maybe some of those folks at the cricket match went on to become early baseball fans.
Maybe so.
It's fascinating to see these glimpses of early sporting events, the roots of what would become major cultural touchstones in the future.
It's like we're tracing the evolution of entertainment from these simpler forms to the massive multimedia experiences we have today.
As we wrap up this deep dive into this 1854 newspaper, what's the biggest takeaway for you?
You know, for me, it's the realization that while technology and societal norms have changed drastically, the core human experiences remain remarkably similar. We still crave entertainment.
We do.
We still seek connection.
Yeah.
And we still grapple with the complexities of our world.
It's a humbling thought. This newspaper, this snapshot in time, shows us that we're part of a much larger human story, a continuum that stretches back centuries.
It does.
It makes you wonder, what will people in the future think when they look back at our time?
Imagine someone in the year 2254 stumbling upon a tattered copy of, say, the New York Times from 2023.
What would they find fascinating? What would they struggle to comprehend?
I bet they'd be amazed by our technological advancements, our interconnected world, but maybe also perplexed by some of our choices and anxieties.
Look, what?
What will they make of our obsession with social media, our struggles with climate change?
It's a fascinating thought to leave our listeners with.
It is.
To ponder what traces of our own time will endure.
Right.
And how they'll be interpreted by those who come after us.
And what stories will our newspapers tell?
It's a reminder that history isn't just a collection of dates and events.
No.
It's a living tapestry woven from the experiences of countless individuals.
Yes, and sometimes all it takes is a single, well-preserved newspaper to transport us back in time and connect us to those who came before us.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through time.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep unearthing those hidden stories that connect